Hello, my dear ones. It's always a pleasure to come to you. Always has been through all these years, all the beautiful souls I've met and all those that are getting their healings worldwide. It's incredible. This video, however, is to Brian Clements. And I know some of you have been trying to get Brian and me together to debate fruit sugar. And I find that interesting in that, Brian, you come from a different level of thinking than I do. Even though I'm a biochemist and naturopath, and I've had 45 years in this field. And the things that I hear about fruit sugar is so bizarre, I just have to tell you. So this is about my take on fruit sugar and what I've done in 45 years on fruits, berries, and melons, where fructose is high and essential. You know, there's three simple sugars, guys, in nature. You have your fructose, which is your simple fruit sugar. You have your glucose, which is your simple vegetable sugar. And you have galactose, which is your simple milk sugar. And these are the three simple sugars. When you start complexing these sugars, then you start getting into dye, which is 2 or more. And then you get into polysaccharides. Saccharides are sugar. Sugars are the carbon side of nature, where amino acids are the nitrogen side of nature. Carbon tends to be on the base side of chemistry, and the nitrogen tends to be on the acidic side of chemistry. When you start looking at the foods that have these simple sugars in them, they're base in their structures. Because base-dominant food is the appropriate food for the Homo sapien, matter of fact, for most vertebrates. So when someone claims that natural fruit sugar is bad for you, these guys are probably of the intellectual variety who got lost in studies that are meaningless and have no basis in fact or truth. And you see this constantly. And I've done videos through these years showing the fruit sugars, how beneficial they are and why we win so many cases. And especially neurological cases. But it is important that everyone realize that sugar is essential to life. It used to be called grape sugar. But it is important that you understand that sugar is carbon, and carbon is essential to acquiring ATP, ADP, and AMP. These are the adenosine dyes and monophosphates. These are the energy factors of cells, where oxygen and carbon are combined with the hydrogen yanked out, which is the acidic side of chemistry, and now you have energy, pure energy. So it's important to understand that sugars are essential. On top of this, you must understand the different vertebrates and how man was put together. Of the 4 basic vertebrates, man obviously is of the frugivore variety. He's a primate-ish, and even more refined than primates. And one might argue that some primates are omnivores, not in choice. Primates are frugivores, and many live as omnivores by choice. And the mountain gorillas have to eat the tender greens by choice. By not choice. It's just where they're pushed up and they live in the higher mountains. Too bad, because these are frugivores. Frugivores have a unique way of chewing, a digestive tract that is, I would say, in the middle. And the ability, of course, ringed for maximum absorption. We do not have a high hydrochloric acid level, nor do we have a complicated digestive system whatsoever. It's important to understand in man's digestive tract, particularly in the duodenal area, that duodenal chyme pH must be 7.5 to 8.5 to even have trypsin, which finishes up the protein polypeptide syndrome down to the amino acid phase. But also your tylan, amylase, and all these others, activates in a base-dominant pH. Now, important to understand that herbivores are those animals that eat vegetables. And the design of a herbivore is totally different than that of a frugivore. We look totally different than a horse, a cow, and an elephant. And the reason we do is because we are of a higher level of consciousness. And these animals, even though pure consciousness in that way, are different in their structures, as I've said. They have a much more longer digestive tract. Their digestive tract is over 30 times the length of their spine. Ours is only about 12. Most herbivores have 2 to 7 stomachs or compartments that assist the digestive process of the fiber. You get into why man had developed juice extractors, and that is to get rid of the fiber. When you're working on a case of any level, you don't want to give people vegetables, because even though alive and fairly energetic, an average vegetable gives off about 9,000 angstroms of energy. By the time you're breaking down that hard to digest vegetable, and a lot of people are pushing the kales and the leafy greens, which are the worst, they are very difficult to digest. And so man tends to see a lot of undigested foods in his stools, particularly when there's some compromising in the pancreatic area. Again, herbivores chew and grind. We do not grind our food. Much different. And then it comes the omnivores. We're nothing like a dog, hog, bear, or chicken. These are all omnivores. Most omnivores favor the veggie side, of course, or the fruit side of life. Omnivores are even more restrictive in that way, and more like pre-digested vegetable matter, particularly into the true carnivores that like the gut tissue because it is pre-digested vegetable matter. Has no length of bowel to digest vegetable matter, a carnivore. This is why you can't, in felines and cats, you can't detoxify them in the way that you would, say, an omnivore, which you can use some vegetable matter with some omnivores. But in reality, no animal is designed for vegetable matter except the herbivores. And we're not even close to a herbivore design. So in my cases, especially in the neurological cases, and I'll give you one, Brian, that we just did, and this was an advanced ALS case, got her in at the end of April, and we do this with all our cases, however. She was advanced, she lost her ability to speak neurologically and to sing, obviously. She, of course, was bedridden, chair-ridden, and her feet were turned in and her hands turned in. Advanced ALS, of course. By the time September came around, she walked home and singing and talking. And not on vegetable matter, on fruit matter, on fructose. Very important to understand the high level of frequency of fructose and of fruits. And it is the only level that you can regenerate man's nervous system on. We never fail to get quads, paraplegics, and those sort of people out of chairs if they follow the protocols. Now, admittingly, I do use botanicals hitchhiked onto that. And there's a good reason for that. So this concept that fruit sugar feeds cancer cells is so far off point, it's not even funny. All sugar. And to argue that fructose, a natural sugar, is bad for you, but that glucose, a same inferior natural simple sugar, is better, makes no sense. Matter of fact, when you get into type 1 diabetes, where the island of Langerhans, the beta cells, are no longer producing adequate amounts of insulin, you want to get off of all vegetables and all foods except fruit. When you go on all fruit as a type 1, you might glucose load for a few days, but your blood sugars will come right down and you'll be between 100 and 200 easily. Depends how brittle you are, etc., etc., but you can fix all that. Because fruit sugar does not require insulin. No matter what the medical records show, I can demonstrate case after case. And the reality, Brian, and all of you guys, is in the cases. Are you winning your cases? And of course, in terms of the Hippocrates, we get Hippocrates cancer people in here like it's a long line from the Hippocrates to here. Good example, Brian, was a young man you had for about 6 months at your clinic, and a big tumor on the side of the neck came over here, and I had it completely gone in 2.5 months. Vegetable matter is not a detoxifier. No astringent value to vegetable matter. Too heavy of chemistry. Too heavy amino acids. Particularly when you want to use detoxification. The Hippocrates is supposed to be a detoxification clinic. You know, I come along with Dr. Jensen, personal friend of mine. A lot of the greats were personal friends of mine. And I can tell you, Dr. Jensen woke up one day with PSAs of 1600, Brian. And he thought, well, let's go back to the old carrot juice fast. And I've done plenty of those through the years. Yeah, realizing that, whoops, nope, no worky. Carrot juice, you don't fast on carrot juice. You don't fast on vegetable matter. Matter of fact, fasting is a water or dry fasting event in nature. However, The fruits have the astringents and the energetic power. Their digestive needs are so small that the yield of energy, systemic energy to the body, is much higher than that of vegetables. And therefore, that's why you see the nerve regeneration so much more. I've had nerve regeneration going on in MS and ALS. Give them vegetable matter to try to maybe build more muscle because you have that stuck in your mind about the aminos and stuff, only to have them lose their ability to move anymore. So putting them back on fruit to get that mobility and that energetic going. None of them dies from fruit sugar because fruit sugar is a natural, simple source of carbon. To say that fruit sugar, again, feeds cancer cells, all sugar feeds cancer cells. Do we even know what cancer is, guys? You know, it's important that the public understand, and you guys at Hippocrates understand what cancer is. And if you guys are living in the world of diseases, then you're living in the world of illusion. Medical doctors own the world of illusion. They've created the whole concept of diseases. There's no such thing.